Pat, welcome.
Thanks, Ross.
So here we are in FX Rental HQ in a secret location. We can't tell everybody.
Absolutely.
Pat, somewhere in London, on pain of death. What's the history? Where did this all start?
It all started with a collection of guys who wanted to supply equipment for the music industry, specifically the music industry and the studios, the professionals, and had a good investment of money to buy professional studio equipment. The main industry back in the day when it was started was entirely pro studio stuff, audio for all the studios around London and the country. And the group of companies also supplied equipment to all of the European studios. Just, it was a huge industry. And it's obviously changed dramatically over the years, and is now diversified between sort of three ways: between DJ, pro audio and studio, and backline and live work.
We've been walking around down there, and it's an Aladdin's cave of just virtually. There's entire Pro Tools rigs, vintage tape machines, modern tape machines, 4 tracks, microphones, vintage mics. There's enough gear porn rack gear there that we're going to be using with you guys over the coming weeks and months to do shootouts with. Absolutely. Is this collection just evolved?
It did evolve, and actually one of the great things about the way it's evolved is FX have never wanted to sell off any equipment that is of great sort of significance and worth, and so there's a treasure trove of vintage equipment, keyboards, and even if they haven't been out for the last 5-10 years, we'll keep hold of them mainly because the company is staffed by musicians and professionals that absolutely love the gear and have a passion for the gear.
I was going to say this because walking around, we found an SH-101, we found a D50. There's obviously Moogs down there, and then there's vintage mics. We're looking at vintage mics now. I've been to Abbey Road and met Lester, who looks after that. Some of this stuff's quite hard to look after, isn't it? Is there a regime? Do you go around a building once a year or so? How does it work? Or before it goes out, it's fully tested.
It is, stuff? Yeah. I mean, we a lot of the testing is done in the building. We've got various mic isolation cabinets, and as the equipment has built up over the years, so has the test equipment and the knowledge, and there are still a lot of professionals around the industry that work freelance, that come in and service the equipment if it's specialist electronic knowledge that is needed. So it's very diverse.
But it must be like maintaining an old car sometimes, because there's some valve mics out there that you have to find the valves on eBay and stuff, don't you?
You do, there's
old synths down there. The parts aren't even available anymore.
Some components don't exist, exactly. So it can be a trial getting things properly serviced and fixed, but there's always a way.
Now, you haven't just sat on all of this stuff and become like an antiques roadshow of the music industry. You've also kind of diversified, haven't you? So we're actually sitting here now in a studio that you rent out. There's like small kind of pop-up studios, I suppose is the best way. Where next door, every piece of gear you could ever want to record with.
Exactly, yeah. And that was the outlook when we were thinking of building spaces. It's called Your Space because that's exactly what it is. You can come in and turn a sound-treated room into whatever studio you like, put any gear into it, and you get it's actually 75% discount on the book rate of our equipment for any gear that you want to use if you're using the studio space. So you can very much turn a room into the studio of your dreams.
So we're upstairs now, but let's say I wanted to use an old vintage tape machine. How does that work? Have you got tie lines that run downstairs, so you don't have to
tie
have
lines that go downstairs? But we'd take the tape machines into the room in the middle.
And create a machine room, basically.
Yeah, create a machine room, exactly.
So basically, you could come in here and you could either have the top HDX Pro Tools rig, or you could have an old Studer 800 or an Atari MTR 90.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the mics of your choice and the tracking gear of your choice.
Exactly, yeah.
Now, finally, then there's the whole sales side. So you're not just about rental. You also are one of the big Pro Tools, one of the avid suppliers, aren't you? Pro Tools and other hardware.
Yeah, we are avid authorized resellers, and obviously sell anything else as well. We, as the industry has changed, a lot of the record companies actually diversified and supply their artists direct, as opposed to getting a budget and putting them in a studio, and so consequently ask us to get equipment for the artists themselves. And so we supply them, we supply individuals, we supply a lot of post facilities. We do everything we can, and sort of act with the client base that we've got, and obviously have the backup of being able to supply rental gear if it's on the shelf, to sales gear if it goes wrong. There's a great model to actually.
Kind of value-added service.
It is a value-added service.
Things have changed a lot. We talked about Abbey Road earlier, and the majority of those studios that you were selling to in the early days, and I remember in the 80s and 90s, we would ring up a company like you and rent in an RMX 16 reverb or an Eventide or something. But do you think the modern, and we did a recent survey on Pro Tools Expert where HD users, the majority of them are now working from home. Do you think they still have that same understanding that people like you exist, that there's a company like you that if you want to track through a vintage piece of hardware, that's still possible? Do you think they've still got the same mentality that the big studios used to have?
I personally think that some do. There are still enough professionals that are working out there that have the knowledge of the older equipment. There's also a sort of a new generation of people that see just the software forms of the old equipment and perhaps don't realise that it's here to rent. But it absolutely is. We supply individuals, and it's very easy to set up an account. You can play with the original hardware.
But we're now going to team up, aren't we? So that we're going to get some of this old hardware and we're going to get the plugins and do shootouts.
I think that would be great. Yeah, I mean, it's there are so many bits of vintage gear here, like Fairchild.
There's a 1070. There's 1073s down there.
There's plenty. There are racks of it, and
there's an RMX. I think we're going to start with the RMX 16, which is the new reverb that's just been modelled by Universal Audio.
Yeah,
and we'll see how that works out in a shootout.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it, and look forward to working with you guys. This is a kind of partnership we're kind of starting today, where we're going to see. I think this is going to be beneficial for everybody. I think there's a lot of Pro Tools users out there that don't know you exist and would love the chance to get their hands on some of this gear to record with. So it's brilliant that we're starting this whole project off.
Yeah, very exciting.
Nice to see you, Pat.
You too, Russ.